Hi, and welcome to Cockatude, Cockatoos with Attitude. Today we're going to talk about stress, the stress of dealing with parrots and parrot rescue and that kind of thing. But when you're dealing with parrots, there are certain things that cause stress, and that's because of the way we see the world. Because they're highly intelligent, they can get the better of us. And if we don't have the skill, the tools that are necessary to work with them, we can start to blow a gasket here and there. So let me talk about three important things. These were discussed by someone about 2,500 years ago. But the first is impermanence. When you're dealing with these guys, if you're expecting a particular behavior, you're going to work with them and get a certain behavior and it's going to stay that way. You're not facing reality, okay? The reality is that there is always change. And in behavior, you can see a great deal of it. So you have to first accept that there will be change. And you have to learn to live with it. It's kind of like walking on tundra in Russia, and that permafrost, when it starts to thaw a little bit and you're slipping and sliding all over the place. That's kind of how it is. And you have to learn to live that way. All of life is like that, but working with parrots is especially so. The next thing to realize is that our personalities are constantly changing too, so they're not really substantial. Our personalities are being molded by the environment, by changes in the things that come about every day. And when you're dealing with birds, for example, today when I came out, as I'm bringing the birds out, coming in after locking the door, and I hear a bird screaming, and it's Cecil, and he's getting his tail pulled by Snowball. Now, this is not something I expect, but what I do expect is that these kind of changes are going to happen. And I don't take them personal because my personality is always changing, like everyone else's. So it's kind of hard to take something personal. Try to think of it that way. Don't take what happens personally, all right? It's easy to do, don't do it. And next is unsatisfactoriness. That's a kind of a big word, but it's kind of like suffering. But no matter what you do, you may have a bird that is just everything you think a bird should be, and then things start to change, okay? It's always going to be like that. If you sit down to eat ice cream, you keep eating it, and you don't stop, eventually it's going to become unsatisfactory. It's going to make you suffer, okay? So don't get stuck on a particular behavior or a particular way of doing things, because these guys will, they have wills of their own. They're going to make changes in your own way of looking at the world. And when you've got a bird that's especially in a bad way, like recently Bob was screaming for upwards of 3 hours a day. That was after I shaved. He's down to doing it for like 10 minutes a day now. And that was because I took my time. I didn't expect him to just instantly change. And I used the tools of ABA. But, since things can get worse, things can also get better. But ultimately, you see a beautiful sunrise in the morning. And when the sun comes up and the sunrise is gone. And if you focus on what you had, that beautiful sunrise, and you don't pay attention to the moment, you're not going to be happy. Jasmine says, let's take that genie out of the bottle and get you over to Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Chloe Sanctuary today. Or if you just have to have that beak pet while your caretaker is busy doing a video, then life is unsatisfactory, right, sugar? Right? Just pet me, pet my beak. I know you want your beak petted. I know. As George Carlin said, don't sweat the petty things and don't pet the sweaty things. So focus on the major changes you're trying to make, and you may make a positive change that causes 3 negative changes that have to be dealt with. You may make one small change and everything gets better for a while, but nothing holds together, right? The center doesn't hold, to quote a certain poet. Now, sometimes you move too fast and sometimes you move too slow. You may have a bird that is getting better and you're hesitant to let that bird come out. Let's say it's been in a cage a long time and you've been working with it. You're hesitant to let the bird come out. Well, once you realize that they're doing okay at this level, you need to break into a new level and you need to move to the next thing. So if a bird that's not, let's say it's not stepping up, but it's coming out okay and it's sitting on a perch, well, the next thing you're going to have to do is break a few things so that you can make changes. And by breaking, I mean an extinction burst. It's like what I've discussed before. It's like when you put the money in the Coke machine and the Coke machine doesn't give you the Coke, okay? And you start flipping the lever and you start beating on the thing. Then who knows, you might start kicking or shaking the machine. That's called an extinction burst. So if a bird, let's say, is taking food from your hand, or a bird is sitting on a perch, but it won't come up and, it won't do a step up, well, now you have to get them out of their frame where they're comfortable and move them into uncomfortable territory. And because we're afraid of the outcome of these things, we often don't do it. There are ways to fix problems if you make them, and you have to deal with that. And the other thing, too, another important thing is the guilt part. There's no reason to feel guilty. There's no real reason to feel guilty because, and I know I'm going to get a lot of comments about this, but I don't believe in free will. You show me something that magically appears in the universe with no causes leading up to its existence, and then I'll believe in free will. But there just isn't anything like that. Everything in this universe is based on, like when you're talking about living things, enculturation by the environment, the environmental stimulus, and DNA. That all comes together to form what they are, and it forms what we are. So when you make a mistake or something bad happens, you can blame yourself, because that's what humans do for a short time, but then just remember that you couldn't have done it any other way, okay? This takes the guilt out of the situation and helps you move forward. It's also important to be prepared for things like bites that are going to happen. Even a bird that's perfectly well tamed and well trained may occasionally bite. It may see something as a threat in the environment, and that's their way of telling their mate or their close associates, we got to get the heck away from this. And they'll turn around and nip at you. In the wild, they're nipping feathers. So if you can remember these things, and if you could get a little meditation in every day where you just observe your thoughts, and so you're not so connected to the way you think, maybe only 5 or 10 minutes a day at the beginning, and then maybe get it up to 20 minutes or half an hour, you'll learn not to pay so much attention to your thoughts, and you won't get negative thoughts about what you're doing or feel, well, sometimes you can feel useless. I'm lucky. I was born with a condition where I don't remember yesterday. I have what's called semantic memory only. I don't see pictures or videos in my mind. And that means yesterday doesn't get to me like it gets to other people. Sugar would like to tell you to please go to www.patreon.com/Chloe Sanctuary. That's patreon.com/Chloe Sanctuary, all one word. And support us so that we can do more of these videos for you. It takes time and effort to do them, so we'd sure appreciate a little bit of a hand. So I hope these little things will help you in the future to look at things differently. But if you can remember these basic points, I think you're going to find that you can be a lot more successful. I know it's the concept of no free will is just anti everything our society says. But scientifically or philosophically, it's the position that has the greatest weight. The idea of free will really doesn't. And so if you can just get out of that mental loop that when you've made an error or something's going wrong, that somehow it's your fault. It helps, and it helps you to be able to work on the problem without getting your mind stuck in bad places, which is easy to do. So I hope you'll go to our website and check out our Patreon page, www.chloesanctuary.org, and patreon.com, that's patreon.com/Chloe Sanctuary, and support us. And to all of our supporters, I say thank you very much. Thank you for all the support, because we couldn't do it without you.
Science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.
Evidence is evidence. It's public. Everybody can look at the evidence and assess it, and eventually, if there's enough evidence, come to the same conclusion.
The Chloe Sanctuary for Parrots and Cockatoos, a nonprofit charity dedicated to the empowerment of captive parrots and public awareness.